I belong to a big, tightly knit family that makes it a point to gather for elaborate dinners every few months at our ancestral estate, a tradition passed down from my great-grandfather. However, there's a rather archaic tradition attached to these gatherings. The women are expected to handle all the cooking, while the men take a back seat. Despite recognizing the inherent unfairness of this setup, particularly in today's times, my attempts to challenge this tradition have fallen on deaf ears, given my status as one of the youngest members of the family. The repercussions of defying this norm are palpable. Women who opt out of cooking find themselves subject to ostracization, a fate that's even more pronounced for new partners or guests who refuse to adhere to the expectations. It's an uncomfortable reality that has persisted, shaping the dynamics of our family gatherings. The upcoming dinner posed a new challenge when my girlfriend received an invitation. Initially enthusiastic about meeting my extended family, her mood soured considerably upon learning about the cooking tradition. While I attempted to rationalize it, stressing its temporary nature and the importance of making a good impression, she found the expectation unreasonable. In her eyes, being compelled to cook as a guest was not only unjust, but also set a troubling precedent for future interactions with my family. Despite my efforts to find a compromise, she remained steadfast in her refusal. Her stance forced me to reconsider my own perspective. Through her eyes, I began to see the tradition not just as a harmless quirk, but as a reflection of deep-seated gender biases within my family dynamics. Her objections weren't merely about one dinner, they were a statement against an ongoing pattern of inequality. Her refusal to participate highlighted an uncomfortable truth. By prioritizing the comfort of my family over her autonomy and dignity, I had inadvertently become complicit in perpetuating a harmful tradition. It was a wake-up call, urging me to re-evaluate my priorities and confront the ingrained norms that shaped our family gatherings. In the end, her stance wasn't just about avoiding a single evening of discomfort. It was a principled stand against a larger system of oppression. As I grapple with finding a solution that respects her autonomy while navigating the expectations of my family, I'm reminded that true progress often demands challenging the status quo, even within the confines of our most cherished traditions. I recently came across a story where a family had a very old-fashioned tradition. During big family dinners, only the women were expected to cook and clean up afterward. Despite recognizing the unfairness of this arrangement, nothing had changed. The person sharing the story speculated that if the family had enough money, they'd hire help, and the women wouldn't have to be in the kitchen at all. This story reminded me of another similar experience someone had. In their family, after these big dinners, it was always the adult women who were tasked with cleaning up. However, one day, when this person was a teenager, their mum asked for their help in the kitchen. They decided to get their twin brother and male cousin to help as well, even though traditionally it was considered women's work. Surprisingly, after that, the expectation that only women clean up after dinner disappeared in their family. People discussing this situation wondered why the person sharing the first story didn't take a stand and help in the kitchen themselves. They argued that by not doing so, they were no different from their old-fashioned family. They even hinted that the person's girlfriend might reconsider the relationship after witnessing these dynamics. In addition to the discussion about family traditions, there was also a story shared about a baby shower. Initially, the person planning it wanted to invite their entire family. However, their wife insisted that it be a female-only event. This request surprised them because in their family, men always attended baby showers. Eventually, the person had to awkwardly uninvite the men after initially inviting them. Despite feeling confused, they respected their wife's wishes to ensure her day was special. This situation raised questions about cultural differences within families and highlighted the importance of open communication and understanding between partners. My wife told me that in her family, it's a tradition to have baby showers just for ladies. I was upset because I was paying for and planning the party, yet I wasn't allowed to be part of it. It seemed strange to me that I couldn't even be at my own home during the event. The party went on for a whopping 10 hours, and I was expected to leave the house for the whole time. We argued a lot about this. I couldn't understand why, as her husband, I wasn't allowed to be at my wife's baby shower. Her sister even backed her up, saying men usually don't go to baby showers and that my presence might ruin the atmosphere. This argument happened 3 weeks before the baby shower, and even on the day before the event, I tried to convince my wife to let me stay, but she still said no. She even told her family about our argument, and her mother texted me angrily, saying it's my wife's event, so she gets to decide who comes and who doesn't. Despite all this, I refused to leave because it's my house, and I'm the one paying for the event. Eventually, I compromised by staying in the backyard while everyone else was inside. But even then, my wife wasn't happy about it. Some people might wonder why anyone would want to spend 10 hours at a baby shower, let alone host it themselves. In my experience, baby showers are usually organised by close friends as a gift for the new mom, not by the parents themselves. So, the fact that I wanted to be so involved should have been appreciated, not ignored. It seems a bit odd for the bride to organise and pay for her own bridal shower. She already has a lot to handle, so it's surprising. Maybe it's more common in Southern traditions, but it still strikes many as strange. Both of you need to work on communicating better about these things. Traditionally, baby showers are for women only, though co-ed showers are becoming more popular. But not everyone knows about this tradition, so your wife should have told you before planning. It's okay to feel left out, even if you helped plan everything, but it's not okay to make it all about the money. Remember, you're a team raising a family, so it's important to work together and understand each other. Yesterday was Mother's Day, and my husband usually isn't the best at gift giving, but this time he really stepped up. He had the kids make me cards, made me breakfast in bed, and took the kids out for the day so I could relax. He even got me some fancy wine, cheese, and chocolate. After the kids were asleep, I thanked him and told him I was surprised by how much he did. He said I deserved it. But then he hinted that he wants something similar for Father's Day. When I asked him what he meant, he reminded me of last Father's Day when I didn't do anything for him. It took me a moment to remember, but then it clicked. Last year, my sister had her wedding over Father's Day weekend, and since the kids couldn't go, my husband stayed home with them while I was away. I hadn't even thought about Father's Day during that time, so I hadn't planned anything for him. I felt really bad once I remembered. It's tough when life gets busy, but it's important to show appreciation for each other, especially on special occasions like Mother's Day and Father's Day. In the end, it's all about understanding and supporting each other. We're a team, and we need to work together to make sure everyone feels appreciated and loved, especially on important days like Mother's Day and Father's Day. It's not always easy, but it's worth it to show each other how much we care. Communication and empathy are key in any relationship, and we're learning and growing together every day. I was caught off guard when my husband unexpectedly asked me to remember what I did for him on Father's Day last year. The question left me feeling blindsided, as I couldn't recall doing anything special for him. It stirred up a mix of emotions, from guilt for forgetting to frustration at being put on the spot. I admitted to my forgetfulness and offered a sincere apology for not acknowledging him on a day meant to celebrate fatherhood. However, I couldn't help but feel a pang of discomfort with the way he approached the topic. It felt like I was being accused of purposefully neglecting him, which wasn't my intention at all. In response to his inquiry, I explained that I had a lot going on at the time and simply forgot amidst the chaos of life. Yet, I emphasized that I didn't appreciate him seemingly rubbing my forgetfulness in my face. It felt like he was holding it against me, which didn't sit well with me. I believed that we could have discussed the issue in a more constructive and understanding manner, rather than placing blame. His reasoning for not bringing it up earlier took me by surprise. He admitted that he refrained from mentioning it because he anticipated my defensive response and excuses. Reflecting on his explanation, I could understand his perspective, even if I didn't agree with his approach. Additionally, he pointed out that I had also forgotten his birthday gift last year, despite my attempt to justify it as a late delivery. His knowledge of the actual order date left me feeling a bit embarrassed, realizing that my oversight wasn't easily excusable. Our conversation took a contentious turn when I accused him of spoiling what had otherwise been a pleasant Mother's Day by dredging up past grievances. In his defense, he clarified that his intention wasn't to be malicious, but rather to express his need for reciprocity in our relationship. He wanted to feel appreciated and valued, especially on special occasions like Father's Day. While I understood his perspective, I couldn't shake off the feeling that his actions were motivated by a desire to make a point rather than foster understanding. Ultimately, our exchange highlighted the importance of open communication and empathy in our relationship. We both needed to recognize and address each other's needs while navigating the complexities of daily life. It served as a reminder that acknowledging and appreciating each other's efforts, no matter how small, is crucial for maintaining a strong and healthy relationship. It seems like Opus is getting defensive and making things worse for himself. He's the one who's been making mistakes, so getting defensive isn't helping. It doesn't sound like his husband was trying to make him feel bad. He was just expressing that he appreciated the effort on Mother's Day and hoped for the same on Father's Day. Opus was the one who forgot he didn't do anything for Father's Day, so he doesn't have anyone to blame but himself. His husband heard his request for more effort and stepped up, so now he's asking for the same in return, which seems fair given the recent events. Another story involves a trip to a lake house. My boyfriend, 20, and I, 20 female, rented the house for the week and invited some friends, Alyssa and her boyfriend James, and Lauren and Simon, who are both single. The house has 4 bedrooms, 3 with king beds and 1 with bunk beds. We thought it made sense for the couples to have the king beds and the singles to have the bunk bed. Everyone arrived at the house in the morning, and my boyfriend and I were the last to arrive because we stopped to get lunch for everyone. By the time we got there, everyone had already chosen their rooms and unpacked. The only room left was the one with bunk beds. I went to the living room where everyone was and asked why Lauren and Simon weren't in the bunk room. Lauren said they preferred the king bed because it was more comfortable, and Simon agreed. I thought it wasn't fair because all the other couples had king beds, and the bunk bed was specifically for Lauren and Simon. So I asked them to move. Lauren's refusal to compromise left me feeling conflicted. When I confronted her about the room arrangements, she bluntly declared, "No, we got here first, so we got dibs." This response caught me off guard, as I had expected a more cooperative attitude from a friend. Faced with her adamant refusal to reconsider, I felt compelled to assert our authority as the ones who had covered the Airbnb expenses. I firmly stated that either they moved into the bunk bedroom or left altogether. Lauren's reaction was unexpected. She became visibly upset and promptly gathered her belongings before storming out of the house. On the other hand, Simon, her companion, displayed a much more understanding demeanour. He assured me that relocating to the bunk bedroom wouldn't pose any issues for him. Following this confrontation, I received a text from Lauren accusing me of overreacting about a mere bunk bed. Despite the support from our other friends, her message left me questioning my actions. Was I being unreasonable in expecting a fair distribution of sleeping arrangements? To provide context, my boyfriend Alex and I had fully financed the Airbnb rental, whereas the other guests were responsible for contributing towards food, snacks, alcohol, and activities. We hadn't requested any financial contributions from them specifically for the accommodation. Reflecting on the situation, I found Lauren's behaviour to be incredibly entitled. Even if the financial burden had been evenly distributed, it would have been courteous for her to consider the needs of the couples first. Her assertion of dibs felt reminiscent of playground disputes rather than mature adult interactions. Furthermore, given our financial investment in the rental, it seemed reasonable for us to have a say in the room allocation. While I understand the frustration of single individuals being relegated to less desirable sleeping arrangements, the key lies in proactive communication and mutual agreement before finalizing plans. In hindsight, our group could have benefited from a more thorough discussion about sleeping arrangements prior to booking the Airbnb. Ultimately, while the situation may have been exacerbated by miscommunication and differing expectations, Lauren's unwillingness to compromise was unjustified. It's crucial to address such conflicts openly and respectfully to ensure that everyone feels valued and accommodated in group settings. Moving forward, I hope to foster better communication within our group to prevent similar misunderstandings and uphold a sense of fairness for all involved. I had a difficult breakup in the past because my ex lied to me about her feelings, which left me with trust issues that I'm still working through in therapy. Recently, my wife Holly's grandfather passed away, and although I hadn't met him since he lived in a nursing home, Holly was deeply saddened by his death. We flew down for his funeral last weekend, not expecting to encounter any surprises. However, I was shocked to see my ex at the funeral. It was unexpected because the funeral wasn't in our hometown, and I had no idea why she would be there. When I approached her, she explained that she worked at the nursing home where Holly's grandfather stayed and had a fond relationship with him. Despite her explanation, I felt uncomfortable with her presence and insisted that she leave. I told her firmly that this was a family event, and her being there was unsettling. Initially, my ex resisted, claiming she was invited by the family and had no way of knowing I would be there. Feeling increasingly uncomfortable, I warned her that I would involve the authorities if she didn't leave, citing harassment and stalking. Eventually, she relented and left, allowing the funeral to proceed without further disruption. Holly was relieved that I took action, but it seems my decision upset her family, particularly her aunt. Her aunt, who lived nearby and visited Holly's grandfather frequently, expressed disappointment that my ex, who had been her dad's favourite nurse, was asked to leave. This reaction from Holly's family has made her question whether I handled the situation correctly. Despite their concerns, I still believe I made the right decision by prioritising Holly's comfort and respecting the solemnity of the occasion. My intention was to ensure a peaceful and respectful atmosphere at the funeral, and I stand by my actions, even if they have caused some disagreement within Holly's family.